everyone. Welcome to this episode of He's Not Wrong. I'm your host, Chad D. Plot twist, this is a bonus episode. You also got an episode with Mallory Hagen-Stramera today. Don't get used to this. I just had a lot to say in a very short amount of time in which I need to say it. So I figured, why not bless all of you with another episode? To start, I want to say that this one, Gray, as a lot of y'all have known to love over the past one episode, is a demon. He has destroyed the plant behind me, and he is soon going to be on the market. So we're kind of over him right now. There was also a change of plan. So the episode that I released today with Mallory was originally scheduled for a few episodes from now. The original guest got sick. Mallory was so gracious to come on this weekend. The guest is no longer sick, so that episode will come out next week. You're also getting this bonus episode, and then there will be probably another episode at some point thereafter the guest next week. So if you're following, that's about 4 to 5 episodes within the first 2 weeks of this podcast. So with that change in plans, I just want to say, baby, that's show business, okay? That we got to roll with the punches. And what we do best here on He's Not Wrong is adapt, and that's what we're going to do. So I appreciate you hanging in there with me. You're welcome. So I also want to say, I'm not drinking coffee with you today, and that's going to have to be okay. So while you're drinking coffee, I have some apple juice because it was a big weather day, as a lot of the people in Alabama know. Most of my viewers right now are coming from Virginia, California, and New York. So I'm going to assume that the people in New York and California, Virginia, you kind of know what's going on. But California, New York, when there's really bad weather, tornadoes, blah, 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 they really hype it up in the local media markets. I don't know if it's because there is an actual threat or if it helps their viewership and therefore advertising dollars. But I took it seriously this time. So last night, I went on a little shopping spree with my boyfriend. I have a story about him here in a little bit. He's behind the camera right now. We're so appreciative. Thank you, Taylor. We went on a shopping spree last night. And like I said, we're taking the storm seriously. So got a little helmet in case there is a tornado that happens upon this apartment in Birmingham, Alabama. So you know what? We're ready. We have our adult apple juice. And so we're just going to kind of hunker in and we're going to chat. And while you have your coffee, I'm going to wear my helmet and drink some wine. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is something that's really exciting. And I'm super happy to say that we have our first international viewer. And I'm even happier to announce that viewer comes to us from Germany. So this is episode 3. We got the first international viewer on episode 1. I don't know how common that is, that you get international viewers this early on in the podcast journey, but I'm thankful nonetheless. So thank you to my German listener. I don't know who you are, but I hope to know someday soon. Let me know in my DMs. So as I think I've established so far on He's Not Wrong, is that the ground rule number 1, when I'm speaking into this microphone, I'm not wrong on anything that I'm talking about. But it seems to me that my mom missed that memo. So she called me earlier this week and she was saying that I need to really prepare myself for when people come to me with differing points of view, with differing opinions. She was telling me not to yell, not to get into it with people, not to fight. And I had to tell her that I think you completely missed the memo, missed the mark, missed the point of He's Not Wrong, because since I am never wrong, that is ground rule number 1, as I have said multiple times now, there is no need for me to yell because I'm not wrong. And if I thought I was wrong and I had to defend myself, I would be yelling and I would be arguing, but I don't need to because I'm not wrong. So I hope I've cleared that up. I know my mom is listening. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Cindy, give me a text. I can clarify further. But for anyone who is listening that might be confused, just remember, on He's Not Wrong, I'm not wrong. So, as I alluded to in the first part of this episode, my boyfriend is standing behind the camera. And I don't know how this is going to fit into this episode. There's really no flow with this story, with this episode. I have for reference, I have an app that I write down my thoughts throughout the week, things I want to talk about, things that are on my mind that I know need to be said, which is why you get this bonus episode, because there were too many notes that needed to come out. One of the notes on here was that Taylor grabbed my leg in the car and he said, "Jiggle, jiggle." So he said that he stands by what he said. So the segue into the next part is I am so humbled with this experience so far. And let me explain. It is a humbling thing to have to watch yourself over and over and over again throughout the editing process, seeing your face, seeing your own face, I should say, hearing yourself talk. It's a humbling experience, and that's really all I can say. I really had to get used to some of my own mannerisms, the way I speak. I was battling, I technically still am battling, but was battling a really bad staph infection on my face. And as I said earlier in this episode, the show must go on. So staph infection can't take me out. It won't take me out. I'm just on some doxycycline at this point, and it's clearing up really good. You can see I just have a few marks here, mark above the eyebrow, almost gone. But as I said, it's a humbling experience. One thing that I noticed from the teaser episodes to the first episode to the episode with Mallory and this one, as you saw with this plant with Gray, is that there's a lot of continuity errors that are happening right now. And that's because we're growing and we're learning. If you're listening on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, you don't know what I'm talking about. You're respecting my wishes of not heading over to YouTube to see what I'm talking about. If that's the case, just stay where you are. But specifically to the people on YouTube, you probably saw that in the teasers, I had the plant behind me. The lamp was on. The lighting was a bit dark. I had friends here in Birmingham who called me out on that. The plant is back. The backlight is on. We have lights, so we're learning. And I hope that this is a better improvement from episode 1 to episode 3, and I hope that it continues to improve as we move along with He's Not Wrong. So there's another segue in the humbling experience that this has been for me, with not only the staph infection, the jiggle, the continuity errors. I hope have seen before you're watching or listening to episode 3, episode 2 with Mallory Hagen-Stromera. That interview featured me wearing my Target teal blue workout shirt. And last night when we were buying the helmets for the possible tornadoes here in Alabama, it was pointed out to me by no other than, again, my own boyfriend, that I am not allowed to wear workout shirts in this podcast anymore because, and I quote, "You should hold yourself to a higher standard on He's Not Wrong." I am now wearing a cable knit sweater and probably will be wearing long sleeves, a form of a Henley tee or a sweater or a quarter zip from this point forward. My pocketbook is not happy about that. We're going to have to go to the outlets because that is all about I can afford at this moment in time and in the near future. So it was called out to me, and I do want to acknowledge my appearance for the Mallory interview. But as I said, we're learning. We're growing. And if you're listening on Apple and Spotify, you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to see it. You just need to comment and let me know how the audio sounds, and that will be fine. I already get enough comments and critiques on my looks and appearance and body by the people closest to me. I don't need it from y'all. So I want to take this as a moment to remind all of you to please don't forget to DM me what you are not wrong about. So as a reminder, because we're still getting this show on the road, we're getting it started, what you're not wrong about means the hill that you're willing to die on because you are convinced that you are that right on whatever it is that you're speaking about. So please DM me some voice memos You can email them to me at HesNotWrongPod@gmail.com, or you can send me a voice memo on Instagram at HesNotWrongPodcast. I want to hear from you. One thing that I had fun with over the past week was friends sending in to me and to Taylor and to my DMs on Instagram and Snapchat, them drinking coffee, listening to the podcast. And I said in episode 1 that my goal was to make Sunday our thing, to make it a ritual, that we would sit down together, we would have coffee. Today is an exception since it's the bonus video, but in the future it will be coffee, to sit down and just have this moment together, to share a cup of coffee, to talk about whatever it is that is on our mind for that week, whether it's current events, politically, or socially, culturally. That's our time. And a lot of you took to heart that comment. And so what I want to start doing is receiving those photos from y'all moving forward. So if you could also, on top of sending me voice memos, whenever you're listening to the podcast, if you're drinking a cup of coffee or you're having a beer or a glass of wine, please send me a photo of you listening to the podcast, having your beverage of choice, because every Sunday I want to feature those photos on the He's Not Wrong podcast Instagram account, because you're doing a lot for me by listening and tuning in every week. And so I just want to also, he's eating the plant again. So I also want to do my part in recognizing you for supporting me and being there for me and listening. And it's just a fun little way that we can all stay connected. So please send me those photos. I keep giving callbacks to that first episode because it was my introductory episode. It was the episode where I laid the foundation for future conversations that will take place. So I told you we'd have the hard conversations. The conversation that I had with Mallory was a hard conversation. I'm sure that there will be people listening who hear what we're talking about and they're going to be angry. But at the end of the day, the conversation that we had is really important. We weren't talking bad about just one side. There are issues with both sides that need to be resolved. We were just giving resolutions and ways that one side can move forward over the other. So I really hope that the takeaway here is we can have these conversations and we can listen to each other. But I digress. I keep calling back to that first episode. And what I said in that first episode was I can read someone's character in the first 30 seconds of meeting them, and I know the type of person that they are. And I stand by that. I that is one thing that I will never change my own opinion on. But one person whose character that I am absolutely positive is pure gold is Alice Elm on TikTok. And if you don't know who Alice Elm is, so you need to look up Alice Elm with Alice Elm Elegant Interior Decorating on TikTok. She is my queen. One thing that I will brag about is that I have been following her since she had like 250 followers. And I think she's now upwards of maybe 100,000. I could be off by a couple thousand. But all that to say, she has blown up. She's on Cameo. People are using her sounds and acting them out because I believe everyone sees the same character in Alice Elm that I saw the first time I saw her in those first 30 seconds. So with that being said, I am growing this podcast organically and the only way that I know how. And so what I need help with is getting this in front of Alice Elm. I need, and I repeat, need to interview her. I want to talk to her. I want her to let her know how much she means to me. I want to know what her thought process is when she's decorating those rooms that she's showing off on her TikTok account. I am so blessed and highly favored that she has commented back and responded to me multiple times on her own TikTok account. That's not enough. I need to speak with her face to face. So if you can just go on her TikTok and comment, He's Not Wrong, let her know that you saw this or listened to this podcast and that I need to speak with her, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you. So I also want to say that I know these first few episodes have been politics heavy, and I completely lied to everyone saying that we were going to lightly, ease into the political discussion. I just want you to let y'all know that I am not shying away from those hard conversations with both sides across multiple fields. It just takes a bit to schedule and organize the conversations that I want to have on this podcast, that I want to bring to you at the level of quality that I know I can deliver on. So the first few interviews and conversations that I have had and will have presented themselves in a way that it might seem very politically heavy, but it's just the way that the scheduling and the organizing has happened. So, all jokes aside, I say in jest that I'm lying to you guys. I'm not. It's not all going to be politics. It's just a little politically heavy starting out. We're going to have fun, and we're going to talk to other people. I have meteorologists in mind. I have doctors in mind. I have interior designers, Alice Elm, in mind. We're going to talk about everything. Just hang in there with me. We're just getting started. So don't let the political talk scare you away from the fun that we're going to have on Sundays together. But one thing that I do want to end today's episode with is we started talking about tornadoes. I'm going to end talking about tornadoes because it is only fitting with the severe weather that we're having in Alabama this weekend and across the deep South that I kind of tell this story because I do have an idea for an episode coming up that I'm going to talk about some trauma that Gray is now moving the camera. So I apologize if you're watching on YouTube, but he is all over the place. But I do have an episode coming up in mind where I will talk about my Catholic school experience. But one of those stories from my Catholic school experience revolves around a tornado. So it was one of those days in the South, and for my listeners who aren't located in the South, those New Yorkers, those Californians, bad weather school days were kind of like what students looked forward to. If we knew that they were forecasting possible tornadoes and really bad weather and they didn't cancel school, we knew that we were going to have some movie days. We knew that the tests were going to get moved. We knew that there weren't going to be any quizzes. It was just going to be a fun, relaxing day. Because the odds are when you're thinking about a tornado hitting, a tornado might be 100 yards wide, but when it's being forecast across an entire state, the odds of actually getting hit by a tornado is rather small. So unless you actually have ever been impacted by a tornado, you never really think that it's going to happen to you. So that's kind of the mentality of a student as someone who is young. Their frontal lobe is not yet fully developed in their thinking, and that's okay. They're kids, but this day in particular, my mom was at work in the library and I was in the science room across from the library. And it was one of those days where they were forecasting possible tornadoes and really bad weather for a week in advance. And so when they do that kind of forecast, you know it's going to potentially be really, really bad. We hear the tornado sirens. We tell my teacher, hey, do you hear that? They came over the intercom, said, get in the hallway. And the next thing we know, the power goes out. And my teacher, who I will keep nameless because she is my friend on Facebook and odds of her seeing this are fairly high, said, I wonder if this is what the people at this high school in Alabama felt like. And this high school, mind you, was hit by a tornado years ago. And it was fairly traumatic. And it was one of those weather events that throughout state history, everyone remembers where they were when this happened. And out of respect for everyone involved, because I do know people who were involved, I'm not going to say anything more than that, but my teacher said that. She said, I wonder if this is what the people at this high school felt like. There are moments when, like, you don't say certain words in a movie theater. You don't say certain words on an airplane. And there are certain words that you don't say during an active tornado warning in a high school, and that was one of them. Shortly after she said that, my mom and I looked at each other like, oh my God, power is out. It was really dramatic. All that to say, I have some tornado trauma from my Catholic high school, and I'm still dealing with that. So as you can tell right now with me drinking my wine, I'm dealing with the trauma that I had when I was a kid through one of the tornadoes that I lived through. I have decided that we need to end this podcast. I have had enough. And I still have a little bit more to go. And if I keep going with the podcast, I'm going to be rambling. I'm not going to make sense. And I think I'm already not making sense. So I'm going to end it now. But you know where to find me. The socials are down in the description of this podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. New episodes drop every single Sunday. Be sure to come back next Sunday for a new special guest. Maybe there will be a bonus episode. Maybe there won't be. I'm not going to make any promises right now. I'm only human. We'll see you next time. Bye.